Hello and welcome to Top Tips around the quality standards. So if you're opening a children's home, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is viewing the quality standards as inspection checklists other than leadership frameworks. Because the truth is this, in my opinion, really they're about shaping culture, protecting children, developing staff and improving outcomes for young people. And Ofsted will inspect this to be the case too. They won't just inspect paperwork. Under the Social Care Common Inspection Framework, inspectors assess culture. They look at emotional safety, staff competence, leadership influence, consistency, and above all, the lived experience of children. That means that good paperwork with poor practice is not compliance. So a word on how inspectors use the standards, because I can help you a little bit here from having been on the other side of the clipboard. Inspectors don't score each of the 9 standards separately. They gather evidence against all of them and then make a small number of judgments on a 4-point scale. Either outstanding, good, requires improvement to be good, or inadequate. And here's the part every provider must understand. How well children are helped and protected is what we call a limiting judgment. If that's inadequate, your overall judgment will be inadequate, full stop, no matter how good everything else is. And leadership works in a similar way. Weak leadership caps how well you can do everywhere else. So when you read the 9 standards, don't picture 9 boxes, picture one question. What is life actually like for a child here, with safeguarding and leadership holding up the whole structure? And bear in mind that the framework is being refreshed regularly. Every reform that takes place has an impact. At a moment, there's much more weight given to the child's lived experience. So always best to work to the latest version. So in this short video, I want to explore all 9 of the quality standards, but importantly, we're going to answer the real operational question behind each one. And that's the so what question. What does this actually mean inside a functioning children's home? What systems do providers need? What will Ofsted look for? And how should this shape leadership, culture, and ultimately day-to-day practice? So we'll start with Regulation 6, the Quality and Purpose of Care Standard. This standard is about ensuring children receive high-quality, individualised nurturing care. What does this mean? This means that your home cannot simply be operationally safe, it must feel emotionally safe. And this standard really is about stability, nurture, identity, consistency, and also therapeutic element of care. So providers will need a clear statement of purpose, a clear therapeutic model, behaviour support approaches, with matching risk assessments, a workforce development plan, and routines that are predictable and nurturing. Operationally, Ofsted will observe bedtime routines, meal times, conflict resolution, staff interactions, emotional warmth, and whether staff responses are therapeutic or punitive. A common mistake providers make is focusing heavily on policies while overlooking emotional culture. Inspectors will want to see children who feel emotionally secure and staff who understand children and understand them deeply as well. There's a key leadership question here, and it really equates to, does this home feel safe, nurturing and consistent for children? So Regulation 7, Children's Views, Wishes and Feelings Standard. This standard really should ensure that children's voices genuinely shape care. So what? So this means participation must exist in practice, not just in policy. Providers need to have children's meetings, advocacy access, consultation systems, complaints procedures, key work structures and recording system that really evidence the child's voice. Not just include it, but evidence it. So the deeper message behind this standard is really about emotional intelligence. Children often communicate through behaviour, anger, withdrawal, testing boundaries and avoidance. Strong providers need to listen beyond words, because children are not going to write you a letter every night telling you how they feel. So Managers and staff need to regularly review sanctions, rewards, complaints, key work discussions and feedback from children whilst asking what unmet need sits underneath this behaviour. Ofsted will they will assess whether children feel psychologically safe, understand their rights, know how to complain and genuinely influence decisions. A common failure is a sort of tokenistic consultation where children are often asked things, but very little changes as a consequence. The real question here is, would children genuinely say they are listened to here? So Regulation 8 is the education standard, and this standard is about a lot more than just school attendance. Education, it represents hope, confidence, opportunity, future identity and self-worth. So what do we need to do? Providers need systems that actively promote aspiration. That means monitoring education, PEP involvement, liaison with schools, attendance escalation, tuition arrangements, homework support and a strong advocacy with schools and with virtual school heads. Managers should analyse attendance, analyse exclusions and think about emotional barriers to learning and education levels. And you need to demonstrate that you've thought about that in your care planning and in your records that evidence management oversight. Inspectors will ask, are staff ambitious for children? Are barriers challenged? Is education prioritised on a daily basis? A common mistake is accepting low expectations because children have experienced disruption. Strong homes never lower their aspirations. Regulation 9, enjoyment and achievement. This is about helping children to experience joy, opportunity and achievement. Well, so what does that mean? Well, what it means is that children in care have often experienced rejection, shame, trauma, and often a degree of hopelessness. This means that your home has got to actively create positive memories and meaningful experiences for the children who you're lucky enough to look after. We need to think about activity planning, celebration systems, achievement boards, memory books, holidays, hobbies, and opportunities that help children develop identity and confidence. We all also have to think about risk assessing and whether risk assessment is done on an aspirational and what can you do basis rather than is there a reason for someone not doing this. So managers need to regularly review whether the environment feels warm, whether achievements are celebrated and whether the home, as I said, feels aspirational. Inspectors will be looking for children who experience life, not just simply being managed safely. Regulation 10, this is the health and well-being standard and it covers physical, emotional and psychological well-being. So, don't think that health is simply about appointments. This standard includes trauma, emotional regulation, self-esteem, attachment, sleep, identity, anxiety and mental health. Providers will need to develop healthcare plans, medication system, emotional well-being pathways that will include things like CAMS referrals, therapeutic support, self-harm procedures, and staff training in mental health and trauma-informed care. Managers need to analyse things like sleep pattern, dysregulation, trends around self-harm, relationships with food, and emotional triggers. One of the common failures in this area is focusing only on physical health while missing emotional distress. The real question here becomes, do children feel emotionally held and supported here? So Regulation 11 is the positive relationship standard. This standard recognises that the sort of fundamental fact really that children heal through the benefit of relationships. And when we talk about relationships, we're talking about positive relationships and meaningful relationships. So staff behaviour here, it really is what will determine the emotional climate of the home. Providers need to provide and install and embed restorative practice models, behaviour support that is relationship based, key work systems, de-escalation approaches, and they will need to develop staff teams that have a certain amount of emotional regulation, both individually and as a collective. Managers will need to observe tone of voice that people have, their humour, body language, how consistent they are, and how staff repair relationships after conflict, because there will be conflict. Inspectors will look at that as well. They're also going to look at and assess the levels of emotional warmth, respectful communication, and they'll be looking for signs that demonstrate children trust the adults that are caring for them. Punitive cultures, inconsistent boundaries, they're common warning signs, really. Strong homes create relational safety above everything else. So Regulation 12 is the protection of children standard. Obviously, it's one of the most critical standards of all, because, as I said earlier, safeguarding is one of the limiting judgments under the SCCIF, Social Care Common Inspection Framework. And what I mean by that is simple but vital. If inspectors judge how well children are helped and protected to be inadequate, the home's overall judgment is inadequate too. Everything else you do rests on this. So what? Safeguarding failures rarely happen suddenly. They usually emerge through complacency, drift, weak challenge, desensitisation, and very crucially, poor oversight from a management level. So providers need safeguarding systems, they need contextual safeguarding assessments, missing from home protocols, exploitation procedures, online safety systems, whistleblowing procedures, dynamic risk assessments that are done on the hoof occasionally. Managers will need to lead regular safeguarding analysis meetings, review incidents, missing episodes, online risks, police contacts, exploitation indicators. Strong safeguarding leadership means consistently asking, are there patterns emerging here? What are we missing? Is there any indication that risks are being normalised? Inspectors are going to want to see decisive leadership, professional curiosity, vigilance, and consistency of approach. Regulation 13, right, this is the leadership and management standard, and it underpins every other standard. Like safeguarding, it carries a special weight within the quality standards as a whole. Leadership is what they call a graded judgment, and if it's judged inadequate, then the home is very unlikely to be rated any higher than that overall. Weak leadership caps everything. So what? So why? Well, the culture of the home will generally reflect the emotional regulation and the standards of leadership. Providers need to have supervision system, audits, quality assurance, training oversight, reflection of practice, Regulation 45 reviews, improvement plans, and really good workforce development. Really importantly though, all of these things should never become purely administrative. Strong leaders will reflect on emotional responses, accountability, culture, safeguarding worries, and staff well-being. Managers should be asking themselves regularly, what culture am I creating? Where did I avoid challenge here? How did my leadership affect children this month, or this week, or this day even? So moving on to the Regulation 14, which is the care planning standard. This is about delivering care through clear and responsive planning. So what? Care planning is really, it's about safeguarding, it's about prediction, it's about emotional understanding, risk anticipation, and stability planning. So providers will need to develop placement plans, impact risk assessments, pathway plans, chronology systems, review systems, and dynamic risk assessment. And it will need to include regular analysis of triggers, escalation patterns, compatibility concerns, risks of placements, and staff responses to their lived experience. So before we close, I want to just tell you the standards I most saw new providers get wrong. Because basically forewarned is forearmed. It's rarely the safeguarding paperwork, it's the softer, harder things. So for example, children's views, Regulation 7, is the one most often done tokenistically. Consultation happens, children's meetings are scheduled, they might even be advertised, but there is no evidence of feedback being given to children, of anything visibly changing, and children they know it. So health and well-being. It often trips providers who will cover the physical box, the dentist, the GP, the opticians, regular appointments or records when children have refused to go to appointments. But we really need to also think about the emotional and mental health side of things. And education as well. That's a bad one because it often encompasses, children often come with incredibly low expectations, and often they'll be attached to other professionals who have low expectations. But that doesn't mean that it's okay for you to carry on that motion. You have to be the change in that child's life. So often homes can match a lower expectation because the child's had such a disrupted history, and sometimes fellow professionals have low expectation of change. But inspectors will notice this immediately. They will show up in how children are, not in their files necessarily, but if you want to stand out to be the home that gets the difficult human standards right, not just the easy documentable ones, you should focus on these kind of things. So please, if you want to take one thing away from this session, let it be this. The quality standards should never become a checklist. They never become a paper exercise or an inspection script. They should become the leadership framework that shapes your entire home. Because when implemented properly, they create homes that reduce trauma, build resilience, promote healing, create opportunity, and fundamentally change children's futures. And that's ultimately what outstanding children's residential care is supposed to do.